between angry messages in the streets and hardline conservatives in power.
Now in session.
Trans youth in America are at the center of a political firestorm.
You will not be erased.
As a trans minor, it's really disheartening to see.
I-7716 names.
Nearly 80 laws passed this year alone.
I move to roll to the hill of the amendments.
No objection. Roll to the hill. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
And in the courtroom battles over these laws, a controversial Canadian psychologist.
In the video recorded deposition of Dr. James Cantor,
these kids in general are not better off transitioning gender.
In this strip mall off the Chapman Highway on the outskirts of Knoxville, Tennessee, is South Press Cafe, where owner Jocelyn Fish runs a queer-friendly space in a state that's passed more anti-LGBTQ laws than anywhere else in the country.
It's about legislating trans people out of existing in public spaces. It's about criminalizing it, and it's also about inciting fear in us.
One of the latest measures, a ban on what's called gender-affirming care, treatments that studies suggest can help trans youth with depression and suicidal thoughts. This Knoxville family, the Bats, can now no longer get medical gender care for their trans child Zayne anywhere in the state.
It's like if another child my age needed life-saving health care and it was denied to them, people would lose their minds. And get health care as a minor.
Zayne's parents asked that we conceal their child's identity, given the threats that trans people face in Tennessee. Chrissy and Daniel say before the ban went into effect, they were having long conversations with doctors and therapists about Zayne's gender care, a process, they say, that made Zayne much happier.
We just want to live our lives and make the best decisions for our kids that we possibly can based on professional guidance.
Gender-affirming care for trans youth can include a range of treatments, from new pronouns to puberty blockers, and for some older teens, hormone therapy. It's an approach to treating gender dysphoria that has the backing of every major medical association in the U.S. But in Tennessee, Republican lawmakers expressed deep mistrust of the medical consensus around gender care.
I had always believed in conservative values the way I was brought up.
House Representative Sabi Kumar, himself a retired surgeon, was one of the sponsors of the bill that banned gender-affirming care.
From my understanding, major American medical associations, the American Academy of Pediatrics, American College of Physicians, American Medical Association, they all say...
American Society of Endocrinology.
They all say the same thing, that the gender care is safe, it's effective for treating gender dysphoria. You're a physician. Why not trust the professional bodies of your profession?
Because of the ideological contamination of these societies.
Why is this such an important issue for Tennessee Republicans?
Conservative values are based on God, family, country, and the values that America was founded on. Homosexuality in the biblical scripture is an abomination. And our constituents in majority believe that. So because we are following those biblical and godly values, that is reflected in the legislation that we pass.
But when it comes to defending these anti-trans laws in court, conservative states call upon a different kind of authority. Expert witnesses who question mainstream medical opinion about what's best for trans youth. One of those experts is Toronto psychologist James Cantor, who has testified in a wide range of transgender cases, from pronouns to school sports to gender care.
The problem besetting youth today isn't just kids with gender issues. It's the entire generation of youth who have been raised on social media. But a lot of people, what the situation looks like, are using trans status to escape their insecurities about their, pending adulthood. I don't advocate for any particular policy. Really, what these people need is the therapy for dealing with the situation that they're in.
Cantor says he is just a scientist, willing to share his take on the research with whoever asks. In court, he cites contested studies that claim the increase in teens identifying as trans is the product of social contagion, vulnerable teen girls who are trying to fit in.
Is the implication of what you're saying that somebody says to you, regardless of what age they may be, I'm a trans woman, I'm a trans man, your response is skepticism?
It depends on the context. If I'm being asked within a therapeutic situation with a client, I am pretty much by definition, being asked by a person who is unhappy with the position that they're in, and my job is to coach, to push them a little bit, to help them, feel comfortable questioning themselves and approaching things in new and different ways that they hadn't before. So it is sometimes uncomfortable for a person. That's the role of psychotherapy.
But some have questioned whether Cantor has the relevant experience to determine what's best for trans teens.
And you personally have never treated any child or adolescent for gender dysphoria, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Earlier in his career, Cantor worked at Toronto's Centre for Addiction and Mental Health, CAMH, alongside psychologists like Kenneth Zucker, who has argued that children should be encouraged to accept their sex at birth. In the U.S.,
in the light of this data, I must agree with a noted researcher from Toronto, Dr. Ken Zucker.
A man who identifies
conservative lobby groups pushing anti-trans legislation are often citing those former CAMH psychologists.
Such prominent figures as Stephen Levine, Kenneth Zucker, Paul McHugh, and James Cantor, among others. These doctors are giants in the field.
When these groups started coming to me a year and a half ago to ask if I, would share what I know in court settings, that was how they introduced themselves to me. Dr. Cantor, we probably disagree on every issue under the planet, under the sun, except this one. Well, to me is, okay, so we will work together on this one. That's what a liberal is supposed to do.
The bans on gender care are forcing families with trans children to make difficult decisions. In Tennessee, some have already packed up and left. Those who can't leave must now travel hours out of state for treatment.
What would you say to these people who are really feeling the effects of a law that you have kind of gone to court and helped defend?
First, I hesitate to say exactly that I defend a law so much as I defend the science. What a government does with the science is what a government does with the science, and I always want any government, whether the US, Europe, Canada, to make any decision based on the best science available.
You're still choosing a side, though, in a court case.
No, the side is choosing me. If my read of the science were different, then it would be the other side that hired me.
You could say no, right? I mean, like if they came to you, said, Dr. Cantor, we would like you to testify. You could say, no, I'd rather not.
Yeah, and that was a tough question that I had to ask myself when they did start asking. Ultimately, the decision I came to myself was that I'm a scientist. My job, I will give the science to whoever it is that asks. Once I came in, I just took it over.
And so many are asking Cantor for his science that he told us he has more than doubled his income this year.
What it boils down to is that we and other families who are trying to support our kids are following the advice of actual medical professionals. We have talked to trans people. We have, we are a part of the community, and we have been very conservative in our approach to doing things. No one is going out and saying, you know what, I want to be trans, I'm going to go get surgery, and it just happening. There are no parents that say, you know what, I wish my kid was trans, let's go get surgery. That's not happening. It's just not anywhere. And so people like James Cantor and others like him are pushing a narrative and claiming that things are happening that just aren't.
Zayns' parents have chosen to stay in Tennessee and lobby against the ban. Their family-run bakery raises money for local LGBTQ causes. Staying will mean frequent travel out of state for Zayns' gender care and dealing with a hostile political climate on a daily basis. But Zayns is undaunted.
For me, the choice to stay and fight, I believe that anyone should be able to do anything they want as long as it's not hurting anyone.
Zayns' younger brother, Charlie.
I'm glad that I can help and defend people who I love, especially.
It's in spaces like South Press Cafe where it can feel a little less lonely to be trans in Tennessee.